so hopefully I'll be able to get a new one from Amazon soon, but I've not yet done that, so we're using my backup microphone, so hopefully this one is working. Okay, now with all that being said, let's get on with the wrap up for the month. So the first book that I read was actually my book club book for November, because we were reading it over the Halloween period. We were doing like a Halloweeny book. It was actually the one that I suggested, so I felt a lot of pressure for it to be a decent book, and that was The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. I've read a few Grady Hendrix books now. I've read Horror Store, I've read My Best Friend's Exorcism, and I've read The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and now also this one. And unfortunately, this one is definitely my least favourite of all the ones that I've read. What this book was meant to be about was essentially, it was a support group for a whole bunch of final girls who are like a trope in horror movies and books and stuff, where the last girl remaining who kills the attacker is the final girl. And so this is a support group for like real life final girls, but then they start getting picked off one by one. That's what this book sold itself as. However, I don't really think that this book necessarily managed to do that. I don't really think it actually knew what it was trying to do at all. I mean, I gave this 3 stars. I didn't dislike it, and actually everyone in my book club really liked it. And so maybe take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt, and maybe it's because I was expecting more from Grady Hendrix because I loved his other one so much. But yeah, I found our main character, Lynette, to be very annoying, and this book is definitely meant to be a satire, but I don't think it did that very well. I kept having to remind myself that it was a satire, because I was thinking like that was stupid, and I'm like, yeah, well, it's a satire, like it's fine. Sorry, my light is awful. What was I saying? Guys, this is why I've not been filming. I cannot. What the fuck was I saying? Okay, moving on from that point, because I've completely lost what I was saying. The ending picked up for me. I thought that the last like 50 pages was quite good and kind of delivered a little bit more of what I was expecting from this book, but yeah, still it wasn't great. There was also a very large cast of characters who I did enjoy, but equally I got very confused with who was who, and they did have very defining characteristics, but I found that those characteristics were given very quickly at the start, and then you just kind of had to remember them, and I didn't do a very good job of remembering them. I think if I'd have gone into this one not expecting it to be a horror, I would have liked it a bit more, because it definitely wasn't a horror. I would say it was more of a thriller. finished it, and the author has also started a new series that's just come out, so I'm going to be reading that soon. And I wanted to finish this series before I bought the first book in the new one, so I did that this month. Sorry, this video kind of feels like I'm not fully here. I'm not. I'm trying my best. Sorry. And that was Handsome Devil by L.J. Shern. Which is the third book in the was actually one of my Illumicrate books. Yeah, it was one of my Illumicrate books, and I thought it would be a good one to read as we went into cozy season. And this was Watermoon by Samantha Soto Yambao. Now, I've never watched a Studio Ghibli film, but from what I've been told, this is like reading a Studio Ghibli film. The vibes were immaculate. This is following, what were their names? I read this a while ago. Hannah was our main character, and she lives in a world that is like perpendicular to ours, but completely different. So she works, her family's business, I guess, is in this pawn shop, and people come from the ordinary world. They think they're going to a ramen restaurant, but when they open the door, it's a pawn shop where they pawn off their like choices, their like regrets, I guess. I'm sorry if the angle just changed. My storage was full, and so I've had to delete a few things. Yeah, I think what I was saying was Hannah is about to take over from her father because her father is retiring. And the day that he retires, or the night that he retires, he goes missing. And so she needs to find him because he took something with him that she needs to get back. Obviously, she also wants to find her father, but she needs to get this thing back that he took as well. And she enlists the help of oh, it doesn't say his name. I think it is it Keishan. Yeah, Keishan, who is a normal person from our world, and together they go on a journey through Hannah's like magical world to try and find her father. This book was definitely way more about the journey than the destination. It was very much like they would do something super cool and random to get somewhere. For example, at one point they had to jump through a puddle, and this puddle took them to one of the like magical realms in Hannah's world. Another time they had to fall asleep next to each other holding hands, and in the dream they ended up at her grandma's shop, which you can only get to through your dreams. So really cool ways that they would get places, and then when they got to that place, whoever they were meeting would just tell them the exact information that they would need to know and then send them back on their merry way. So it was way more about the journey than the destination, but it was a lot of fun. I gave it 4 stars. What could have been better for me is Hannah and Keishan did develop a relationship, and it was a bit underdeveloped. I thought, I don't really actually think it required the relationship between them, and it felt a little bit like an afterthought, I guess. Also, some of the concepts that the author was using really went over my head, but I do kind of think that was the point. For example, sorry, I just had to go down the stairs because someone rang the doorbell and now I can't breathe. There was one point when someone was folding time the series gets really good. So I will definitely continue with this series. And that was Guild by Raven Kennedy, which is the first book of the Belated Prisoners series. These books get massive, but this one was a respectable size of about 380 pages. This one is a fantasy. Now, it is a romantasy series, but there was like no romance in here. In fact, I'm not even convinced that we met the love interest in this one. We probably did. I'm just not 100% sure who it is yet. But we are following Araya. Is that her name? Like, no one ever said her name, so I'm not 100% sure what her name was. I really think it was Araya, but I'm not 100% sure. We're gonna go with Araya. Literally, I'm not joking, no one ever said this girl's name. And she lives in King Midas's kingdom. And King Midas can turn things to gold. And he has turned her to gold. So she is like a golden woman who he keeps in a massive cage. She's technically one of his royal, like, mistresses, I guess. They call them saddles in this book, but I refuse to call them that, so I won't. And she's like his favourite one, so he treats her special, keeps her in this cage, and basically he sells her off to one of the heads of another kingdom for the night in exchange for his army. And I can't really say anything else, I think, because that then becomes a spoiler, but everything goes in motion from there. Now she kind of has a relationship with King Midas. King Midas sucks, by the way. I thought this was going to be like a Greek retelling, but this is set in the modern world, and it's actually a Disney retelling, based off of the Hercules Disney movie, which is actually one of my favourite Disney movies, but this was not good. There was no plot, it was just spice, essentially. It's set at kind of a club for very rich people, and Hades owns the club, and he's in a relationship with Meg. She is also his sub, and then Hercules is forced to join as a deal between Hades and Hercules because he wants to set Meg free, but she doesn't want to actually leave, and they end up in this weird triangle, and it's just strange. It's just smut scene after smut scene with no plot and no substance, and it was also like really poorly written. The only thing I did like about this book, if I can find one that's not even appropriate for me to show, it's got like artwork in it. I think there were 2 or 3. Is this one appropriate? Kind of more appropriate. There would be artwork. Oh, this one is the most appropriate, like that throughout, which was quite cool, and I enjoyed that. This sucked. Don't read this book. Okay, next up was the best book that I've read in November. I really enjoyed this book. I got this for Christmas last year as well, and this is In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. This is Alice Wynne's debut book, and wow, this was amazing. It hit so hard. It is a World War I story following a group of boys from their boarding school essentially to the war, but mainly you're following these 2 boys, Elwood and Gaunt, and they are in love with each other, but they do not know that they're in love with each other, which, by the way, 100% everyone knew they were in love with each other. Like, did they not know they were in love with each other? They were very obvious about it. Obviously not too obvious, it was illegal at the time. And Gaunt basically signs himself up for the war, because his family is German. Yeah, they're being accused of being German sympathisers, and so his family kind of force him to sign up for the war, so people stop saying that about them. And obviously at the start of the war, no one really had any idea that it would go on for as long as it did, and that it would be as devastating as it was. But Gaunt goes to war, and then Elwood follows him to war, and they're able to have kind of more of a relationship in the trenches than they would have been able to have at home, and so their relationship develops. But then obviously it's a war story, so a lot of things happen, and this was just so devastatingly beautiful. It was so well done. I did actually end up highlighting a few quotes. There's one that I would read to you. It's about this far in, so I don't think it's a spoiler, it's just about their relationship, but it's beautiful, and it made me cry. I cried so many times whilst reading this book, this quote being one of them. And it says, "If Elwood were a girl, he might have held his hand, kissed his temple, he might have bought a ring and but this book made me sick. Bonds of Hercules by Jasmine Mass. I'm really disappointed because I did actually enjoy the first one. Like, the first one sucked ass, but it was so entertaining. This one, it just lost all of the things that made it fun. Like, it kind of came across like Jasmine Mass didn't know what she wanted to do with it. There wasn't really any plot. I found when there was plot, the characters felt like they had no motivation. Why they were doing things just didn't make sense. Also, the first book set up for it to be a reverse harem relationship between Alexis, the main character, and then her two mentors and her two teachers. But I think Jasmine Mass has decided somewhere along the way, maybe she's going to do a book with two of them, that she doesn't want Alexis with two of them anymore, so now it's just Alexis with two of them, which, fine, whatever, I don't care, but don't do a whole book where you're setting up for this relationship dynamic to then not do that relationship dynamic. Yeah, the writing is awful. It's so bad. She did this in the first one as well, actually, and she did it less in this one, but it irked me more for some reason. In brackets, she puts in like things that are meant to be funny, but they're not funny, and they just piss me off. It pissed me off. I did get to this page. I was 296 pages in, so I was over halfway. But this book is 510 pages long, and I couldn't do it to myself for another 200 pages. I just couldn't. So I'm going to sell this instead. I am sad though, because I did buy the signed exclusive edition, because I have the first book in a signed exclusive edition, but I'm definitely going to sell this one now. I don't need it. Okay, so that is everything I read in November. I hope this video wasn't too bad for you. I tried my best. I'm just not 100% with it. But yeah, thank you so much for bearing with me this week and for not being too upset at me for missing the upload. So I do appreciate that. Yeah, hopefully I'll be better soon. So I'll